The Sicha we're going to learn this week is for Parshas Bamidbar. That's Bamidbar Beis, the second Sicha for Parshas Bamidbar, in Chelik Yud Gimel. That's volume 13 of Likutei Sichos. This Sicha is a Rashi Sicha. Now it could be that the moment I said Rashi Sicha, you're thinking, oh boy, that's not for me. Those are complicated Sichos. Those are difficult ones. True, and I agree with you, that Rashi Sichos do require a little more patience and diligence, but the value, the result is fantastic. Because what the Rebbe does with a Rashi Sicha is he brings it to life. And with time, when more Rashi Sichos you learn, first of all, you get better at it, I can guarantee you. And second of all, you begin to think like the Rebbe. You begin to think like Rashi. Literally. And you begin to appreciate it, even when you're just studying cursory, just going through Chitas on a regular day, you appreciate the Rashi. Rashi makes sense. He's no longer bothering you at what seems to be a pretty good verse, like why you making, so to speak, trouble in asking questions and giving answers and analyzing. Just let it go. It makes sense. It becomes alive. And through that, the whole Torah becomes alive. So what I would encourage you to do is have patience. And like I said, with a little diligence, we'll get through this Rashi Sicha and many more Rashi Sichas to come, and you'll really, really enjoy it. You will really appreciate it. Let's get to work. This Sicha, like any Rashi Sicha, really requires that first you look at the verses, you look at the psukim, and you study the Rashi. And get an idea on your own what Rashi wants. And I can actually guarantee you something. If I made the suggestion, let's read a few psukim, the several psukim that this Sicha talks about, and then pause the tape, pause the recording, and analyze it yourself. I can guarantee you that you'll come up at least with some of the questions, if not all, if not many of, if not the majority, at least the minority of the questions that the Rebbe asks. Because they're so obvious. You start to compare, you start to look, you start to think, what am I reading here? Wow, what is Rashi really saying? So the first verse that really is important is in Perek Aleph, Pasuk Nun Gimel. In chapter 1, verse 53. Over there, the Torah tells us that we're going to count the Yidden. We're counting Bnei Yisrael, but the Leviim, Shevet Levi, they're different. And there it says, because they're the ones who are going to be serving in the Beis Hamikdash. They're the ones who are going to, camp out around the Mishkan Ha'edus, around the Beis Hamikdash there, that was in the desert. And they're going to see to it that they're going to guard that the Jews don't come too close, and therefore they're not going to chas v'shalom create a situation in which Hashem will be angry with them. So they're going to be there to serve as guardians of the Mishkan. Now let's get to the verses that are the primary verses of our parsha. Perek Gimel, Pasuk Vav, and on. If you look at Perek Gimel chapter 3, verse 6, what does it say? Hashem spoke to Moshe, he says, Hakriv es mate Levi, va'amadat ha'isei lifnei Aaron HaKohen, v'sheirsu ha'isei. Bring close the Shevet of Levi, put him in front of Aaron, in front of the Kohanim, and they will serve him. Who is him? The Leviim will serve the Kohanim. Then the next verse, Pasuk Zayin, v'shomru es mishmartai, and they will safeguard Mishmartai. What does Mishmartai mean? His watch, or his safeguarding. Ves Mishmeres Kol Ha'edah, and the watch of the entire congregation before the Oyel Moed to do the Avodah of the Mishkan. That's Pasuk Zayin. That's verse 7. And then verse 8 continues, and he says, Vishamru es kol kalei Oyel Moed. They're going to guard, they're going to watch over all the utensils, all the vessels of the Mishkan, and Ves Mishmeres Bnei Yisrael. Again, the watch of the children of Israel. La'avodas avodas HaMishkan, to do the Avodah of the Mishkan. Pasuk Tes, verse 9. V'nasatas haLeviim la'Aaron u'levanav, you're going to give the Leviim over to Aaron and his sons. Nisunim heim alai. They are given over to him. It says it twice. Me'es b'nei Yisrael, from amongst the children of Israel. And then again, in the next section of the Parsha, look at verse 12, Pasuk Yud Beis. Again it says, Hashem spoke to Moshe, and what did he say? Va'ani hine lokachti Levim, and I, behold, I took the Levim, mitoich b'nei Yisrael, from amongst the Eden, from within the Jews. Tachas kol b'chor petach rechem b'nei Yisrael v'hoyu li alvim. And they come instead of all the firstborn, who we know were really the ones who were supposed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, supposed to serve in the Mishkan, but because of the sin of the golden calf, that was taken away from them. I guarantee you, if we stopped right now, start to compare the psukim, start to compare the verses, and you're going to come up with so many questions. They're all going to pop up. Because what's really obvious, and I'm sure you're thinking this already, the Torah keeps on repeating itself, or so it seems. It keeps on saying the same thing over and over again, just a little poetic changes. Okay? For example, look in verse 9. What does it say? Me'es b'nei Yisrael. He took the Leviim from b'nei Yisrael. Look in verse 12. Mitoich b'nei Yisrael. I took the Leviim from within. What's the difference? It's all the same, right? It's like saying 6 of one, a half a dozen of the other. You're really saying the same thing, so why change it? Now we know in the Torah, everything is exact. In the Torah, everything is so accurate. So what does the Torah want to tell us? And for this, we're going to find out by analyzing Rashi. So, first of all, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to think for a moment. What is really the true meaning, not just the literal meaning, of the word watch? It uses the term here that the Leviim are here to serve as mishmeres. V'shamru es mishmarto. They're going to keep their watch. What is this mishmeres? Now I can give you an example. If you say watch in English, it can mean so many different things, from one extreme to another, but things that have actually no connection, no relation to one another. For example, I wrote down a few things. A watch can be a wristwatch, correct? A watch can be like somebody who's doing bird watching. You're watching something, you're looking. You're watching a video of the Rebbe. A watch can be guarding. Correct? You're guarding something. You're watching a store. You're watching that no one steals anything. A watch can also mean, this is the first watch, this is the second watch, this is the third, a shift. So what is watch mean here? What exactly does it mean? You see, by learning this Rashi, and by analyzing these Rashis, we're actually going to find out what was the task of the Leviim. What were they there for? What are they to do in the Mishkan? And how it connects to us. Are they working for us? Are they working for the Kohanim? Are they working for both of us? Are there some jobs that maybe they do for the Kohanim? Some jobs that they do for the Leviim? For the Bnei Yisrael, and so on. So the Rebbe begins the Sicha by asking 9 questions on the various Rashis. Okay? Because if you look into the Rashis, the way Rashi explains it, let's take for example, the first question, Rashi on Pasuk Vishersu Oisai. Okay? That's Pasuk Vav. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, and what is, I'm paraphrasing Rashi, and what is this Sherus, what is this service? Vishamras Mishmartai. They will keep his watch. Why? And how does Rashi, obviously, it's obvious from Rashi, how does he translate the word watch in this particular Rashi, in this pasuk? Well, they're going to do the guarding of the Mishkan. Because the Kohanim are instructed that no Zor, no foreigner, no one outside of the Kahuna should come close to the Kodesh, to the parameters, to the perimeter of the Kodesh, of the holiness. Therefore, who's going to do that task? Who are the security guards? The Leviim are going to do it. The Leviim are the ones who are going to help the Kohanim. They assist them by doing this Sherus, this service. Okay. And that's how Rashi basically connects verse 6, Pasuk Vav, with Pasuk Zayin. Right? What is in Pasuk Zayin? Mishamris Mishmartai. Then it makes sense. They should safeguard, they should keep its watch. What watch? Guarding, watching that nobody comes close. So they're like the Vada Misader. They're the people in charge of order and security. But that's not the case in the next Rashi. If you look in Rashi, on Pasuk Zayin, what does Rashi say over there? Vishamru es mishmartoi. They should safeguard their watch. Says Rashi, any appointment that a person has, when someone holds a position, someone is tasked with a certain task, that is called a mishmeres. That is called a watch. So how is Rashi now translating the word mishmeres? Not watch as in guarding, but watch as in a shift of a certain period of time that you have something to do, or a task that you have something to do. So suddenly we changing what the word mishmeres means. In verse 6, in Pasuk Vav, it seemed obvious for Rashi, and Rashi clearly said it, that what was their task? Guarding. And therefore, if Rashi hadn't said anything, if I would continue into Pasuk Zayin, into verse 7, I would understand that Vishamru es mishmartoi, they will keep their mishmeres, their watch would mean that they would keep their job and make sure that they do this task properly of guarding, of watching that the Jews don't come. And here, Rashi changes it around. Totally. Okay? And Rashi even brings examples. We know, let's say, for example, the Gemara says, when it refers to the shifts of kahuna, of the Kohanim, and the various shifts of the Levim, it calls them Mishmeros Kahuna and Levi. I'm just using one example from Rashi. So again, already we have several questions here already. Now, let's continue to Pasuk Ches. Okay, what does it say there? What does it tell us about what the Levim do? Well, it says that they will Veshamru es klei oyel moed. They will take care, they will watch the vessels of the oyel moed. Ves mishmeres b'nei Yisrael, and the watch of the children of Israel. Now, without Rashi, without any commentary, how would you translate that? What would it seem to be saying? The watch, the guarding of Bnei Yisrael. The guarding of what of Bnei Yisrael? That Bnei Yisrael should not come close, should not come to the Mishkan or come to where they don't belong. But what does Rashi say? Ves mishmeres b'nei Yisrael, Rashi tells us this is because all Jews really need the service of the Mishkan. In other words, technically speaking, every single Jew needs to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Every single Jew requires this avodah, but not everybody can do it, right? Especially the fact that not everybody is fit for it, not everybody knows what to do, not everybody is a bechor, but everybody has a connection to it, everybody is required to be part of it. Oh, so what happens? The Leviim, they take over for all of Bnei Yisrael. So they, Mishmeres Bnei Yisrael, they are taking, so to speak, the task. They are doing it on behalf of the Jewish people. They are doing it for the Jewish people. Okay? And then Rashi continues, and he gives us some very interesting information, or it seems to be superfluous here. I mean, that's not what really our focus is here. But yeah, Rashi tells us, and that, by the way, says Rashi, is the reason why we give them Meiser. Why the Torah required us to tithe after we've given already to the Kohanim, that we have to give Meiser to the Leviim, because we have to pay them. That's our connection with them. And that's why it's called Mishmeres B'nai Yisrael. What the Leviim are doing, they're doing on our behalf. They're doing for us. Because really, we should be doing it. But we just can't. So again, you see over here another discrepancy, that before, when we said, let's say for example, if you look in verse 7, right? How did he explain Ves Mishmeres Kol Ha'edah? Did Rashi say anything about it? the watch of the entire congregation. Did Rashi say? No, it was obvious because they're watching the entire congregation. And there Rashi didn't find it necessary to explain and tell us that, listen, the Leviim, they get paid, we're gonna have to charge them with this. In other words, we're gonna give them the power to do it on our behalf because we pay them, we're hiring them essentially for that. Rashi doesn't say anything. And Rashi doesn't even say that it means a task for the Jewish people. It means a task of watching the Jewish people. Mishmeres means literally. Yet in this verse, suddenly Mishmeres doesn't mean the watching of the Jewish people, meaning the guarding. Over here, what does it mean? The task of, like a shift, a watch as in shift, as in task of the children of Israel. And Rashi finds it necessary to tell us that we pay for it, that they're acting as our agents. What's the reason for the change? What's this all about? Now, if we continue further, there's yet another verse over here, like we mentioned before, verse 9. What does Rashi say on the words nisunim, nisunim heimalo? Meaning, the pasuk says that you shall give the Leviim over to Aaron and his sons. Nitunim, nitunim heimalo. They are given over to them. I'm literally translating it. The Torah repeats itself. Says Rashi, nisunim, nisunim heimalo. You know what that means? Le'ezra, for help, for assistance, for support. It's obvious. We know that. We know the Leviim support the job of the Kohanim. They're a support service. They guard for the Kohanim. They help them with all the support jobs. They carry the Klei HaMishkan, the vessels. They take down the Mishkan. They do the shir. They do the song. They don't do the main avodah of offering the karbanos. They do all the support. Why is it necessary for Rashi to actually explain this? And then, when it says, Me'es b'nei Yisrael, from amongst the Jews, you know what Rashi says? Me'es doesn't mean just from the Jews, but mitoich b'nei Yisrael, from within the Jewish people. That means what? That they were separated from the Jews and designated exclusively as an exclusive group for this task by the decree of Hashem. So Rashi basically takes the word me'es, which just means from, and says it mitoich, which means like it's already a chosen, it's a separation from within. You took something out. Not that they come from there, but you extracted something. Yet, if you go to verse 12, where it says what? Hashem says, I took the Leviim, mitoich b'nei Yisrael. What does mitoich mean? From within, I extracted them, I took them as a chosen group, as an exclusive group, out from the rest of the people. And what does Rashi say? Mitoich b'nei Yisrael, sheyu Yisrael shavim oisam l'shivasili. That the Jewish people will actually hire them for this service. In other words, essentially what Rashi is saying is, it's not that Hashem, so to speak, extracted them from amongst the Jewish people and left everybody else there, but rather that the Jewish people collectively, as if, so to speak, hire them. In other words, what Rashi really is doing with this word mitoch is taking the word mitoch and changing it to mean me'es, from the Jewish people. Like they gave the Leviim over. They're the ones who, so to speak, volunteer them by paying them and chose them for this job, designate them for the job. So you see all these, what seems to be discrepancies in the Rashi, back and forth. Rashi seems to change around the meaning. Rashi seems to be, so to speak, tampering with the meaning back and forth. And yet, when we go back to all the way in the beginning, the first time in this parsha that it mentions the task of the Levim, it mentions the fact that they were chosen for the community to mishmeres, Rashi doesn't say anything. Look again in verse 53, Nun Gimel, in Perek Aleph, in chapter 1, doesn't say anything. It says nothing about what their task is. Rashi doesn't find it necessary to explain what it means. This all needs to be explained because it's obvious that Rashi had a reason, Rashi had a purpose, and when we understand that reason, when we understand the purpose, we will appreciate exactly what's going on here. And basically what we're going to find out is something very special. First of all, what exactly was the task of the Levium? And like I mentioned, who they were working for, what their purpose is, on whose behalf, and how it connects to us. So let's go for it. We'll do some insight. Let's start from Ois Beis, chapter 2. V'yuvan kol zeh behektem davar tomua behemshech haksuvim aniskarim liel. This will all be understood first by prefacing something which seems to be a little difficult with all the psukim that are above mentioned, and we went through all the psukim. V'hu, what is that? Shepasuk echad choizer v'nishna pam shenis. It seems, at least at a cursory glance, that this one pasuk seems to be repeated a second time, right? Because it almost seems like the Torah is repeating itself and saying the same thing again, which is la'achar she'amar hakasuf. After the pasuk already said, "Vishamru es mishmartoi ves mishmeres kol ha'ed lifnei oyel moed la'avodas avodas hamishkan." After the pasuk already said that they will keep the watch and the watch of all the people of the entire congregation before the oyel moed to do the avodah, to serve the avodah in the Mishkan. Miyad, right after that, ba pasuk sheni, comes a second pasuk, uvoi lechaira oisei hatoichem mamish, and what seems to be with the same exact context, which is vishamru es kol kelei oyel moed es ishmeres bnei Yisrael la'avodas avodas hamishkan. That it says they will watch, they will keep all the vessels of the oyel moed, and the watch of Bnei Yisrael to do the avodah and the Mishkan. It almost says exactly the same thing. Exactly. Page 12. Asher al kain, therefore, mistaber loimer. It makes sense to say, it's logical to say, she'aksuvim mairi kan bishnei sugei avodas haLevim b'Mishkan. That the ksuvim, the psukim, the verses, mairi kan, they're talking here, in two types. Shnei sugei, sug means a type. Two different types of avodas haLevim, the service of the Levim and the Mishkan. Vishneim, and both of them are mishmeres b'nei Yisrael. Both of them are called mishmeres b'nei Yisrael, albeit, as we'll find out later, with slightly different meaning. Val yedei hanochazu, and by establishing this, by having this established, hanocha means something, this is settled, this is established, yisyashvu kol hakushois v'astiros de'le'il. All the questions and all the seeming contradictions we asked will all be settled, will all be cleared, because it will become very well understood that they're not actually questions, they're not actually contradictions. Chapter 3, Ois Gimel, Ubira Inyan, and the clarification of the matter. The Rebbe already gave an answer, but now to clarify it, to shed more light. Incidentally, the difference between Pirush and Biur. Pirush means when you have to actually translate or interpret what something means, right? So you're being mefarish. Mefarish means to expound, just to tell you what it means. Biur is when you shed, it comes like from the word light, oir. You're actually giving a clarification. You're clarifying it. It starts to make more sense so you can appreciate it. And that's where you really get the true understanding, the true appreciation. Think of, as an example, think of a nice room with beautiful furniture and, different art and ornaments and perhaps nice moldings. When there's a very dim light, you can make out what's in that room. You won't get hurt. You won't bump into furniture. You'll know where to sit down. You'll know where's the table, what's a plate. But you won't really appreciate the true color and all the detail and the carvings and the art and everything else. Once the light gets turned on, and the more it gets turned on, obviously within reason, wow, you begin to appreciate the detail, and you really, really begin to enjoy everything that's there, all the art and all the attention that was given to every detail. So, ubir ha'inyan. Avodas haLevim b'Mishkan, the service of the Levim in the Mishkan, mischalekes leprotim shonim. It actually divides into various detail. There's avodas hapiruk, there's the avodah the task that they had of dismantling, that is taking the Mishkan apart, Hamasa, the carrying, right? The carrying of all the Mishkan, the boards, the vessels, all the curtains and everything else, and then Vahakama, and then the re-erecting of the Mishkan. Then there is Avodas Hashir. Then there is the Avodah that they had of the Shir, of the song. We actually do it every day after we finish our Korban, which is Shmona Esrei. After we do it by Shachris, what do we say? Hayoyim, this is the day. Shaboy Hayu Alvim Oimim. This is the Shir that the Leviim would say, they would sing in the Beis HaMikdash when they brought this Korban Tamid. So that was their other Avodah. And then there is Va'avodas Hashmira, and the Avodah of the guarding, which is Shelo Yikane Zar B'Mishkan, that a Zar, a foreigner, should not come into the Mishkan. And if you want to really divide it, Ubiklalusam, if you want to divide it generally, Heim Shnei Sugi Avodah. There are two types of Avodah. Aleph, the first one, Ha'avodah B'Mishkan Ba'ofen Chiyuvi. The service in the Mishkan in an oifen, the Rebbe calls it chiyuvi, in a positive manner. I would call it in an active, assertive manner. The things they do for the Mishkan. Hainu, meaning, tzorchei hamishkan hamutolim haleim, the needs, all the various tasks of the Mishkan that is imposed on them, that they're charged with, la'asoisam, to do it. Okay? Uvinyane hamishkan atzmai, and this involves the Mishkan itself. They have active roles in the Mishkan, taking it apart, putting it up, carrying it. Again, everything related to the Mishkan itself, singing in it while they offer the korbanos in it. So this is one type of service. Then, Beis, the second type, says the Rebbe, avoda hamizbatas ba'ofen shlili, a service which gets expressed more in a negative manner, meaning hashmira miknisa zadim. This is not an active role in the Mishkan, but rather, like I would call it, maybe a preventative measure, which they do on the outside, is supporting what needs to go on in the Mishkan, but not actively directly being in the Mishkan, rather protecting that the people who don't belong there don't get in. In other words, they're the gatekeepers. Ve'ena baha mishkan atzmai. It's not in the Mishkan itself. Ki'im, rather, what is the purpose of this type of avodah? Litoyeles b'nei Yisrael shelo yikashlu b'ay. This is actually for the purpose and for the well-being of the Jewish people, that they shouldn't come to do an avera, God forbid, and stumble into the wrong places. Ukemefurish, as the Torah says clearly, Vayoimru b'nei Yisrael, we see that the Jews themselves said, the Yidden themselves complained, much later in Chumash Bamidbar, Kol hakarev Mishkan Hashem yamus, that whoever comes close to the Mishkan of Hashem dies. I mean, obviously over there people came close where they weren't unauthorized, and that's what the Yidden complained, and they said, oh boy, who's going to help us with this? What are we to do? I mean, anybody just steps in the wrong place and you're done. Shezui Tainas B'nai Yisrael, this was actually the complaint, this was the argument that the Jews gave, Asher Ein Anu Yecholim Liyoy Zehirim B'kach V'chulu, that we can't be careful with this, right? And what comes in response to that? Uv'mayin Zeh Bo Hatzivui, and then this, and in a response to this, meaning as a direct solution for this problem that the Jews are afraid, how are they to be careful and sure not to come to the unauthorized zones? Vayomer Hashem el Aaron, Ata uvanecha uvesavicha itcha tisu esavoin hamikdash. He says to Aaron and his sons, you, the Kohanim, you will carry the burden. You will carry the responsibility. If anybody comes in unauthorized, it's on your head. However, in order to help you with that, you can't just put a burden on someone's head. You have to also give them a means of avoiding, this culpability, avoiding the negative. How would you do it? So he says later, "V'gam es achicha mate levi goimer hakriv itcha v'ilova lecha b'sharsucha." Also, we're going to bring close, meaning we're going to bring to you, we're going to offer you the rest of Shevet Levi, and they will be there to support you and do what? Koloimar, meaning to say, what does this mean? Sha'ala koyanim b'siyua halevim that it's incumbent on the Kohanim, with the help, with the assistance of the Leviim, Lamed v'lishmer shelo yikrevu b'nei Yisrael mishkan, to stand there and to guard that the Yidden don't come close to the Mishkan, meaning that they don't go into any unauthorized zone. So now we have the two tasks, where the Leviim are serving the Mishkan, or where the Leviim are helping make sure that those who don't belong in the Mishkan don't come there. Says the Rebbe, v'hefresh ikri ben beis sugi havodah shel Leviim. And there is a fundamental difference between the two types of avodah, as the Rebbe now described it and compartmentalized it, this type of service and that type of service. Avodasam hachiyuvis, there is, like we said before, their positive, their active role in the Mishkan. Litzorche HaMishkan, hichoivas halevim. This is the Leviim's obligation. This is their job. This is their task. This is their purpose in the Mishkan. Ve'ena b'tor siyar l'kohanim. This does not come as a support for someone else's task, namely the Kohanim, but rather this is their purpose. The only involvement the Kohanim have with the Leviim, the Rebbe puts in parentheses, because we do find where Hashem says, well, tell Isamar that he's going to be in charge of the Kohanim. Tell him. That's only, says the Rebbe, v'hakohanim nitztavu rak, all that the Kohanim were commanded in regards to this category of task that the Leviim have, lasum oisam, to place them, ish avadesam, to place them. In other words, the Kohanim in this particular aspect of what the Leviim do, the Kohanim only serve as like managers. Okay, as task managers. They tell them, okay, you do this, you do that. But as far as who are they doing the work for? Who are they doing the service for? Whom are the Leviim serving? Their purpose, their task. They're serving their purpose. Their purpose is to do these things in the Mishkan. And the same applies to their task of doing the shir, of singing the songs and all the hymns in the Mishkan and later in the Beis Hamikdash. However, Shmiras HaMishkan, the other category of service that the Leviim had, which we referred to before as the preventative one, the negative one, to prevent the negative, Shmiras HaMishkan, the guarding of the Mishkan. Shemefurash bikra hanisker le'il, that explicitly in the pasuk that was above mentioned, it says what? She'aron ubanav heim hamimunim b'achrayim hazeh. That it's not the Leviim's task, it's Aaron and his sons who are in charge of this. Aaron and his sons are in charge of guarding the Mishkan. And not only that they're in charge of it, but they have to answer for it. And if anything goes wrong, they're at fault. That the Leviim are in the mode of helping the Kohanim. They are Yilavu Alecha, they assist the Kohanim. They add on to the Kohanim, they are serving the Kohanim in their task. So if we break it down, the Leviim had two general categories of tasks in the Mishkan. Either with the Mishkan itself, which was their active role of putting it up, taking it apart, carrying it, all the service that they did in the Beis Hamikdash, they're singing the songs. That is their task. That's what they're there